The story opens in Brooklyn, inside a bar, where a secret and risky system used by Chechen mafia is introduced. Various mafia groups randomly select bars as money laundering points, known as drops. Criminals deposit cash there, and later a bagman moves the money from one location to another. To avoid theft, the identity of the chosen bar is kept hidden from everyone. We are introduced to one such bar, where a bartender named Bob works. He treats customers kindly, often helping people and even offering free drinks to those in need. However, no one truly knows what his life was like before becoming a bartender. Bob gets this job through his cousin Marv, who has connections with dangerous people. Although Marv appears to run the place, the bar actually belongs to Chechen mafia, a fact most people are unaware of. Bob accepts his life as it is, believing he will spend his entire life working in this bar. One night, the bar is crowded with people drinking in memory of Richie, who mysteriously disappeared 10 years ago. Marv later approaches Bob and expresses his frustration. He complains about Bob giving away free drinks, explaining that this is a business and such behavior could harm their earnings. Bob calmly acknowledges the concern and agrees to be more careful.
Smoking here, even though that's illegal, and $40.
She can't afford it.
As we learn more about Bob, we see that he is a deeply religious man who regularly visits church and lives a simple, disciplined life. He keeps to himself and avoids trouble. One evening, while returning home from work, Bob hears the painful cries of a puppy coming from a trash can. He quickly checks and finds an injured dog inside. Without hesitation, he rescues the dog. At that moment, a woman named Nadia steps out of a nearby house. Bob hands over the injured puppy, and Nadia begins treating it. She carefully examines the wound and realizes that although the injury is serious, it is not life-threatening. The dog has been severely beaten, so Nadia gently treats its wounds and applies medicine, believing it will recover in a few days.
So hard, this breed. It's not the dog's fault his owner's a dick.
While she carefully cleans the dog, Bob notices bruises around her neck, hinting at her troubled past. Nadia explains that she works as a waitress and briefly had experience in animal rescue, which helps her handle the injured dog. Bob wonders if the dog should be taken to an animal shelter, but Nadia immediately refuses because she has seen how poorly animals are treated there, especially injured ones. She feels the dog would not survive in that environment. Bob, trusting her knowledge, suggests that she should keep the dog, but Nadia hesitates and insists that Bob should take responsibility instead. Bob feels confused, yet sympathetic toward the helpless dog. After thinking it through, he requests Nadia to keep the dog for just 2 days, promising that he will return and take it afterward.
I work nights. I work a lot.
Give me a couple days to think about it. Hey, please, just a couple days. I'll come back.
Meanwhile, we see two brothers who plan to rob Marv's bar. One of them feels nervous and uncertain, while the other, named Fitz, pressures him. He explains that if they successfully complete this robbery, they will earn respect and prove their capability for this job. The younger brother remains worried because he knows the bar is a drop location controlled by Chechen gangsters. Despite his concern, Fitz manages to convince him. The two brothers put on masks and enter the bar late at night, just before closing time. They pull out guns and threaten Bob and Marv. Marv immediately realizes the danger and attempts to warn them that they are targeting the wrong place, as this money belongs to Chechen mafia.
Don't think about it, just feel it.
Do you know whose money you're jacking here?
Fucking feel it!
However, the robbers ignore the warning and force him to fill a bag with money. As Marv complies, Bob quietly observes everything. His attention is drawn to one of the robbers' hands, where he notices a broken watch stuck at a specific time. After collecting the cash, the robbers quickly escape. When Bob and Marv step outside, they discover that the security guard has been severely beaten. The next day, a detective named Evandro arrives to investigate the robbery incident. He begins questioning both of them and immediately recognizes Bob, as they both attend the same church regularly, although they have never interacted before. Evandro focuses mainly on Bob, trying to gather useful information. Bob calmly explains that the robbers were masked, but he did notice a broken watch on one of them, with the time frozen.
Watch was just like,
And it will stop?
yeah, that's right. It says 6:15.
After collecting the details, Evandro leaves from there. Later, Bob visits the church, where he quietly prays. While standing there, his attention shifts to a statue nearby with the name Rocco written on it, along with a figure of a dog beside it. This moment reminds him of the injured dog. Without delay, Bob goes to Nadia's place, where she hands the dog over to him. From that moment, Bob decides to take full responsibility and names the dog Rocco. Bob drives away, but then he realizes that he knows nothing about raising a dog. Because of this, he drives back to Nadia's place and explains his situation while asking for her help. Nadia agrees to help him and takes him to a pet store where they buy all the necessary supplies for the puppy. She carefully guides him through everything, including food, walking essentials, and basic care. She also explains how to properly look after the dog and ensure its recovery. Bob feels grateful for her support and later drops her back home. However, during this moment, a man named Eric is seen watching them from a distance. On another side, Marv meets Fitz, who carried out the robbery with his brother. It is revealed that Marv himself secretly arranged the robbery to test whether they were capable of pulling off such a job. His real plan is much bigger, as he wants them to steal a large amount of drop money when it arrives at the bar. Marv praises Fitz for completing the task, but also points out a serious mistake. The guard was beaten too badly, and now the police are repeatedly questioning him, which increases the risk of exposure. Marv also warns that Fitz's brother's watch has been noticed, and it could lead to identification if they are seen again.
What the fuck you hit Roddy so hard for? Now we got an ambulance, then we got cops. What's with his watch? People notice that it's broke.
The next morning, while Bob is cleaning the bar, Marv is present with him. He watches some men approaching them. A man named Chavka Umarov shows up and immediately creates a tense atmosphere. He shows them a dead body and reveals that he tortured the man. This act serves as a warning, making it clear that the stolen drop money must be returned, or they will face the same brutal consequences. However, Bob remains calm and unaffected by the intimidation.
Somebody robbed my bar.
I'm sorry, Mr. Trovka, somebody did.
Find my fucking money, eh?
Instead, he returns home and takes Rocco out for a walk in the park. While spending time there, Nadia arrives and feels happy seeing Bob with the dog. She offers to help take care of Rocco whenever Bob is busy, which Bob appreciates. Their bond begins to grow stronger, and they exchange contact details, looking forward to meeting again. One day, while Bob is walking Rocco in the park, Eric approaches him. He silently observes them for a moment, creating an uneasy feeling. After briefly acknowledging the dog, he walks away without revealing much. Bob feels confused about who this man is, but chooses not to think too deeply about it and continues with his routine. Later that night, someone knocks on Bob's door. When he opens it, he finds Eric standing outside once again. Eric walks inside confidently and reveals that the dog actually belongs to him. Bob does not believe this claim at first, but Eric presents adoption papers as proof and insists that he has come to take the dog back. Bob strongly disagrees and points out the cruelty Eric showed toward the animal. He makes it clear that someone who could hurt a helpless puppy does not deserve to have it again.
It has a security chip account number on it. No, it's my dog. You beat him. I'll tell the cops you did.
Eric, however, remains calm and manipulative. He threatens to twist the story and file a police complaint, falsely accusing Bob of abusing and stealing the dog. He knows that people are more likely to believe official documents over Bob's words. This pressure forces Bob to stay quiet and think carefully. Instead of escalating the situation, Eric offers a deal. He proposes that Bob can keep the dog if he pays a price. He gives Bob a week to arrange the money and plans to return soon. Before leaving, Eric casually takes Bob's umbrella with him. Bob returns to work, trying to stay focused. While cleaning in the back area of the bar, he notices a black bag. Out of curiosity, he checks inside and discovers the stolen money along with a severed hand. There is the same broken watch on the wrist of that hand Bob had noticed earlier on one of the robbers. Bob does not panic or react emotionally. Instead, he calmly takes the bag inside and begins packing the severed hand in a careful manner, which reveals that he is not just an ordinary bartender. Marv later instructs Bob to dispose of the hand and walks away. Around the same time, Eric briefly appears at the bar, looking for a drink, but Marv turns him away immediately.
Like you're wrapping a piece of meat.
I'm going for a walk now.
Bob then takes Rocco with him to the seaside and throws the severed hand into the water, getting rid of the evidence. As he does this, Detective Evandro approaches him. He shows him a photo of Eric and asks if he recognizes him. Bob denies knowing anything. Evandro explains that Eric has been a suspect in a murder case for the past 10 years, but there has never been enough evidence to prove his guilt. He asks Bob to report anything suspicious if he learns more, then leaves. On the other side, Marv meets Fitz again and forces him into a car. He pressures him to carry out another job, but Fitz refuses. He is already shaken because his younger brother has been killed, and he wants to stay away from all dangerous activities.
If anybody saw my brother alive, he got into a car with a guy. I'm not doing another one, man.
Realizing that Fitz is no longer useful or reliable, Marv decides to eliminate him. He stops the car and tricks him into stepping out. As soon as Fitz does, Marv runs him over with the car, killing him instantly. With this act, Marv removes the last remaining evidence to the robbery. On the other side, Bob visits Nadia early in the morning to leave Rocco with her again. During this visit, he carefully brings up Eric and mentions that he recently claimed ownership of Rocco. The moment Nadia hears this, her expression changes and she becomes visibly disturbed. Instead of responding, she avoids the topic and walks away, leaving Bob confused. Bob returns to work, where Chovka Umarov arrives and informs everyone that a large amount of drop money will be delivered to the bar in 2 days. This announcement excites everyone because it means a big commission is coming. The entire staff begins celebrating, especially Marv, who secretly feels thrilled because he plans to steal all the money.
Yeah, you handle the drop.
All right. Which night?
Super Bowl.
However, Bob remains indifferent, as money does not seem to matter to him. Later that night, Bob visits Nadia again. This time, she opens up and shares about her past. She reveals that Eric was once her boyfriend and that he used to abuse her badly. That phase of her life was extremely painful, but she has now moved on and is trying to forget everything. To lift her mood, Bob takes her out for a drink. When they return, there is a quiet moment between them. After a short pause, Bob leaves from there. When Bob reaches home, he notices that his umbrella has been returned, the same one Eric had taken earlier. This makes Bob realize that Eric has been watching him closely and knows his routine. The next day, Bob goes directly to Eric's place to confront him. Instead of backing down, Eric reacts aggressively and reminds Bob that the dog still legally belongs to him. He indirectly threatens that if the money is not paid soon, he could harm the dog again, even in front of Bob.
Just get my money, 10 a.m. your place. Go to the cops, and I'll get my dog back. Simple. I'm gonna beat his fucking head with a rock.
Despite this, Bob avoids escalating the situation because he knows Eric is already under police suspicion. He assures Eric that he will arrange the money soon. Around the same time, Bob learns that Marv is unwell and goes to visit him. During their conversation, Marv repeatedly hints that he might not be present on the day the drop money arrives. Bob immediately understands what Marv is planning. He warns him clearly not to attempt the robbery, explaining that the Chechen gang will never forgive him. Bob also reveals that he already knows Marv was behind the previous robbery. Despite this serious warning, Marv refuses to listen and ignores the consequences.
I don't feel good. What do you need me for?
I don't. You blowing off the biggest tip day of the year.
What, do I work for tips now?
The next day, Marv goes to meet Eric because he has now chosen Eric for the next robbery. He shares the entire plan to Eric and gives one strict warning. He advises Eric to stay away from Bob at all costs, hinting that Bob is far more dangerous than he appears. Marv makes it clear that Bob is the only real obstacle in their plan and should never be provoked. Eric, however, feels confident and believes he understands Bob's weakness. After this, he goes to Nadia and tries to involve her in his plan. When Nadia sees him, she becomes terrified. Eric pretends to be remorseful and tries to gain her trust by acting as if he regrets his past actions. He pressures her to come with him to the bar one last time. At first, Nadia refuses, but Eric threatens Bob's life, which forces her to agree out of fear. That evening, Nadia arrives at the bar with Eric. When Bob sees them together, he feels anger building inside him. Nadia had earlier described Eric as abusive and someone she hated, yet now she appears beside him again. Bob struggles to understand the situation but keeps his emotions under control. He focuses on his work, though he continues observing them from a distance. As the night progresses, customers begin to leave, and eventually, only 3 people remain in the bar: Bob, Eric, and Nadia. At this point, Eric approaches Bob and demands the money. Bob quietly hands over the agreed amount for Rocco. However, Eric becomes more demanding and starts pushing further.
I'm happy to pay you 10 grand for the dog. And how much for her?
Now asking for access to the locker where the drop money is kept. Bob calmly warns him not to go any further, explaining that the money does not belong to ordinary people and that taking it would bring deadly consequences. He advises Eric to be satisfied with what he has already received and leave. However, Eric refuses to listen and uses the threat of a weapon to force the situation. At this moment, Bob begins revealing a story from his past. He reveals that years before, Marv had been embezzling money from the Chechens while working as a loan shark. When one of his customers named Richie unexpectedly hit a big casino jackpot and settled his entire debt, Marv saw a chance to fix his books. He used the man's winnings to repay what he had taken from the Chechens, then instructed Bob to kill the debtor and get rid of the body. However, the truth was hidden as people believed the customer was killed because he failed to repay his debt, and his body was never found. The truth shocks Eric, and his confidence begins to fade. Until now, he has been acting tough based on a false story, but Bob reveals that he was actually the one who killed Richie 10 years ago.
Kid had to be killed.
You
Yeah.
killed him.
Yeah, I did. And I put him in an oil tank. His name was Richie Whelan.
This realization shakes Eric, yet he still tries to pretend that he is in control. He slowly reaches for his weapon, attempting to regain dominance. However, in a single swift move, Bob eliminates him without hesitation. There is no fear or emotion on his face, which clearly shows his experience. Nadia witnesses everything and finally understands that Bob has been telling the truth all along. She realizes that taking a life is something he has done before, and years ago, people feared him for exactly this reason. Now Nadia becomes terrified as the man she started to trust suddenly appears dangerous and unpredictable. She fears that she might also become a victim. Meanwhile, Bob calmly drags Eric's body away. He tries to make her understand that he has left his violent past behind and no longer wants to live that life. He genuinely cares about people, including her, but Nadia is too frightened to believe him. Overwhelmed by fear, she runs away. At the same time, Marv waits for Eric, expecting him to return with the stolen money. However, the Chechen gang has already discovered the truth that Marv was behind the robbery. One of their men arrives and kills Marv, ending his story. Shortly after, Chovka Umarov meets Bob and informs him that he will now take over the bar as the new manager. Later, Evandro offers Bob condolences for Marv's death and asks Bob about Eric, who has gone missing and was last seen at the bar just as Richie has been. Evandro reveals that although Eric took credit for Whelan's death, he was in a psychiatric ward the night Richie went missing. Torres insinuates that Bob is responsible for both disappearances and then walks away, leaving Bob out of his investigations. Bob immediately understands what has happened. He realizes that Marv has been eliminated, but he does not react emotionally. In the morning, Bob goes to meet Nadia one last time. He hopes to move past everything that has happened and return to a normal life with her. After hearing him, Nadia softens and shows trust, hinting that she is willing to give him another chance.